Serious, male Shreks workers of Reddit. How do your clients look like and what is your most and least common request? Hi Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will go to bed now. When I was 19 years old I traveled to NYC for a week and visited Shake Shack a few hours after arriving. I called my mum while I was in line and I told her I arrived, yada yada. A man behind me overheard my conversation and asked me if I had any friends or family in town. We sat down together and he bought me a beer. He told me that I was handsome and he wanted to help me out by having me stay at his place. I would have said no, but he said he was a doctor and showed me his credentials. He told me he wanted me to walk around his apartment naked and just spend time with him while he wasn't working. He paid me $500 a night. When we went to the underground garage a lot of cars had MD on the plates and I even saw a few US representative plates. I haven't been to NYC since, but he said I've always got a place to stay. Did not have Shreks and would definitely do again. Were you at all worried about getting murdered? Worked through Craigslist for a little while. Fell off the wagon once I ended up meeting with someone I knew from high school. Mostly it was older/larger women. Most of them wanted to be eaten out. But there was one girl. Oh my god. We were the same age, she was covered in tattoos, my favorite of which being a chest piece featuring the Time Turner from Harry Potter, pierced nipples and clit, the works. We met up at a motel near where she lives and went at it. After a while, I lit up a cigarette as she laid in bed and she got up suddenly and began to vomit in the bathroom. After about a half hour she comes out and apologizes and proceeds to pull a huge bag of prescription pill bottles out of her purse. After she sees my surprise she tells me she has cancer and is trying to have a little fun since her boyfriend did nothing but work to pay her bills, but would always be too tired to touch her. There were a lot of times I found out I was a guy on the side, but that charge made me particularly sad. That's a tough one. I really don't know what to think and I don't know what my reaction would be. After my initial shock, I just kind of asked her if she wanted to finish up and go our separate ways, because she wasn't feeling good. She told me that she wasn't doing anything else for the next couple hours and I assured her that I wasn't either, so we ended up turning in the TV and fooling around until 5 or 6 that night. I was more worried about making her feel worse and doing something that may kill her than the fact that she was with someone lol. I used to work as a male model at nightclubs in Shanghai, China. From there I was introduced to a bunch of people who offered me jobs at other places, and to make a long story short I ended up working basically as a straight up escort. The clients were usually wealthy, high-end women over 35 years of age. Oldest client I took on must have been around 55. The most common requests would either be dinner at a fancy restaurant, followed by drinks in some VIP lounge, followed by spending the night at her hotel room, being her date at an event, her showing you off to her friends, basically acting as her boyfriend for the night, then spend the night at her hotel room, go directly to her hotel room, have Shreks, then leave. I didn't have many weird requests, no pervy stuff. Although the most memorable one I can think of was when I was asked to have Shreks with a 30-something woman in front of her much older husband. She kept yelling things at him in Chinese while we were having Shreks, as he was sitting on a chair in the corner of the room, wearing nothing but underwear, a shirt and a suit jacket. He also looked super pissed every time she yelled something at him. I feel bad, but that last scene is hilarious. The faces her husband was making during all of this was actually quite hilarious and every time I glanced over at him I had to stop myself from laughing. But at the same time the whole situation was quite awkward and I almost got paranoid that the husband would snap and go get a knife or something. Sounds like he may have cheated on her, so she was making him watch her cheat on him. If he didn't seem to enjoy watching and wasn't pleasuring himself in the process, it seems like she was maybe exacting get revenge on him. That's one hell of a healthy relationship. I've worked as FinDom. The usual is cash point meets. I meet the sub at a cash machine. He gives me his debit card and PIN. I withdraw what I want as he watches. That's it really. I need to get into FinDom. You have the credit score of an ex-NFL player. You'll never own a yacht, you pathetic landlubber. I was more of like a straight up hooker for a few months a couple years back. All my clients were guys, very diverse. Some were old fat rude men, some middle-aged married guys, black, white, Indian, even some younger guys that I thought were very attractive. Most common was them blowing me, which I didn't expect. Least common was this regular I had kept asking me to not shower cause he wanted me to be ripe. Most common was them blowing me, which I didn't expect. As a clocksucker, it can be difficult to find dong sometimes. Amateur escort here. I'm gay, and I only see male clients. I used to see this fat old European guy. He was really into getting his body massaged with lotion and kissing with tongue. Made small talk while I massaged him. That is pretty much what we did, and for an hour and a half he would give me $250 cash. Met another guy last week. He's older, muscular and kinda hot. I let him frick me for like an hour for $150. Anyway, how is everyone else here making thousands? I didn't see many replies from guys servicing males, which as someone else posted is by far the most common setup in the US. So here's mine. When I was 25 I did this for a few months between jobs. Standard rate is circa $200. HR if you're in a major city like NYC or SF. It's fairly easy to get clients, but at least 50% of people reaching out just want to talk or get you to talk to them while they jerk it and won't set up a meeting. So it pays to be very direct and to the point with your customer service. 70% or so of guys wanted very vanilla stuff. Kissing, maybe some oral. They were typically middle-aged average looking business guys who seemed lonely. In my experience they were always perfectly pleasant. One guy made me a cheese and fruit plate for when I arrived. These were sad sometimes. The remainder would be very specific kinky requests. Those were the worst since they'd typically want to get straight to business. The vanilla dudes would spend half their time chatting. Some specific ones I remember. Guy who liked getting escorts to frick him bareback. Guy who wanted to jerk off watching me smoke 6 cigarettes. I almost threw up. Guy who wanted to get fisted, like, urgently, but hadn't cleaned out very well. I charged him extra. It wasn't the worst experience overall, but I found it kinda killed my enjoyment of Shreks outside of working, so quit as soon as I was getting income from my real job. Happy to answer any questions. I worked as a nude housekeeper in college for what I assume were gay men. 30s 60s. I would just trip down and do various house cleaning tasks in the buff. If they had a secluded yard, I sometimes did gardening. I got paid $100 an hour on average. I would occasionally have anal or oral Shreks if they were attractive or offered me a lot of money. I found most of my clients on Craigslist or Grindr or by word of mouth. Most of the time they just watched me and jacked off. Sometimes they made me wear skimpy underwear or a jockstrap. There were a couple of creeps, but mostly the guys were nice. My best experience was with this guy who lived in what had to be a $5 million swanky modern looking house on a lake. We ended up eating chef prepared food, crushing around in his boat and swimming naked in his pool, and he paid me $3K to spend the night and have Shreks with him. Some retired guy who had some business in oil. I didn't clean a thing that day. My clients were generally middle-aged or older men, rarely attractive. Usually just guys who were unable to get Shreks normally, a few who were in the closet or married. Most common request was bareback, though I always said the price was triple for that and no one took me up on it. Why would you consider doing bareback? I think it's more like he knew no one would take him up on it for such a price, so it was an easier way to get them to drop the idea than for him to say no and hurt their feelings. Frick your feelings, man. I just don't want to get an STD. But I'd have to know exactly how much is tripled first. Base price was $150 an hour, so triple that is $450. I was also definitely on the lower end of the price range. Throwaway here. In the 90s I was living in Toronto and met an older woman at a neighborhood bar on a quiet afternoon. She was attractive and fairly drunk and I took her back to my place. It was a thing on my bucket list. She was 47 and I was 23. We had amazing Shreks. She was very confident and direct with how she liked things and I was happy to oblige. We met many more times at hotels, bars and restaurants where she always picked up the tab. Each time we ended up in bed. She was divorced, financially well off, kids were off on their own. Once we went to Mexico for 2 weeks at a snazzy 5-star joint. Our social leaves never intertwined. About 6 months in, she asked me if she could loan me out to a couple of her girlfriends. Of course I jumped at the chance. I went out with 3 of her friends a couple times each and it was always the same. Dinner, drinks then Shreks. Occasional just showed up at a hotel for Shreks for a few hours or overnight. 2 of them were, unhappily, married and the third was divorced. They always paid the expenses, but no cash directly to me. They bought me clothes and gifts occasionally. All of those women just wanted the companionship and Shreks they weren't getting at that point in their life. A good long, sustained pounding and the original woman was a master at oral like I've not experienced since. Eventually I moved from to, but that was a pretty sweet run I had. Okay Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will go to bed now.